Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my podcast. I'm Benita Hutchison, and today is my last episode on health. I will be bringing other podcast series to you starting the next week or so stay tuned for those. So, talking about health, this past week has been a really interesting one for me, and it's really been a lesson in surrender and acceptance and patience. On Thursday, I had surgery on my feet, and if you've ever had somebody stick needles in your toes, you know how very painful that can be. I was ever so grateful to have my husband Tillman by my side, holding my hand. I think his hands might still be recovering. I was gripping them pretty hard. I was pretty vocal. I have a very high pain threshold, but that was extreme. And just as I'm recovering from that, the very next day, I end up in Emerge with another kind of pain. It started out around 11 o'clock in the morning. I thought, wow, this is really bad indigestion. And it just kept getting worse. And I know, those also can be the signs of heart attack. Although I have a very healthy heart, I still thought, yeah, okay, I agree. Let's go to the hospital. And by the time we got there and were sitting down, I was in so much pain, I could barely communicate clearly for myself. So again, thank God for Tillman. I was a couple of hours in sheer agony before I was given any pain medication. Understandably so. They had to run a lot of blood tests and make sure they didn't give me something that was going to make me worse. It's very hard to understand that, though, when you're in a lot of pain. You just want it to stop. Eventually, I was put on a morphine drip, and it looks like I passed a gallstone. So despite being a pretty healthy person and an active person, these things can happen. And I was back to work at an event the next day. My body was still a little bit sore and recovering, but I love my work, I love what I do, and it feeds me, it gives me the energy that I need. So I think when you are in alignment with Source, when you're doing what you're here to do, the universe gives you energy to do it. So I was very grateful to be able to work the next day. But it's so interesting when your body takes you on a journey that you just have to surrender to, how much it teaches you about patience. Because a lot of us, I think, when we're relatively healthy, we want to go out and see the world and get things done, and we kind of drag our bodies through whatever we're doing, whether it likes it or not. And a lot of what I've been talking about is listening to your body, paying attention to the signals. What does my body need? Does it need rest? Does it need food? Does it need exercise? What's going on? What does my body require? But when you're in that state where you don't know what's going on and they have to run a bunch of tests and you're hurting, it really just becomes surrender to the experience, patience with your medical staff that are helping you, patience with what's happening with your body. It's very hard to be patient when you're in a lot of pain, but you really have no choice but to ride it out. And I have to say hats off to everybody in any medical field that either has to inflict pain, such as using freezing on my toes, or has to endure watching people in pain in order to help people to heal. It's gotta be a really tough road to hoe. And it's very hard on a partner too. So I'm ever so grateful to Tillman because he never left my side. He made me feel totally loved and supported through the whole thing. And that's not easy to do. I think sometimes it's harder to witness somebody we love in pain than it is to go through pain ourselves. So I think it's very easy for us to find fault with the medical system in Canada these days. But we are still dealing with a system that's trying to heal from a pandemic. It's still working its way back to what it was, and even before the pandemic, there were struggles. But in my experience, yes, I had to do some waiting. I wasn't the only patient in the hospital. I wasn't the only person with needs. And I think we have it pretty good. I've been in third world countries. I've seen people dealing with chronic conditions that there's no medical care for. They can't afford it. They can't access it. And sometimes they're suffering horribly from things that in our country would be cured very quickly. So I'm grateful for being able to access clean water and most of the year clean air. And it's just having the ability just to go into a hospital and be seen to, even if I have to wait a while, it's worth it. I think what we do have, we have to be grateful for. And we have to exercise patience. Patience with our body, patience with the system. A few years ago, I had a test. The doctor wanted to follow up urgently. That went through that October, the request. I didn't get the test done until April of the following year. Luckily, it turned out to be nothing important, but I had to just accept that if it was something really bad, I was going to have to wait to find out and deal with it then. Part of what helps me get through things like that is to say, absolutely everything that happens is part of my spiritual journey. Everything that's going on is my body, my life, my companions, everything that's going on in my life, my experiences are all there to help me grow. So at the time, I was in too much pain to really process it, but afterwards, I was like, okay, what is my body trying to teach me? What can I learn from this experience? And I realized part of the learning is just accepting that as we age, our body changes. And it's really preparing us for the time when we're going to leave it entirely and go on to a new experience. So it might slow us down a bit. We're meant to be more introspective. We're meant to be meditative. So we can either get angry at our bodies for not doing what they used to do, or we can appreciate what they're still able to do. It's a pretty amazing thing when you think about it, that we have billions of cells all working together cooperatively to get us out of bed in the morning, get us where we need to go. And I realize some of us are dealing with acute or chronic conditions. Some people are living in chronic pain. And I know that that's a truly difficult path. But that's again where sometimes all we can do is practice patience and appreciation for what we can do or who is supporting us on our journey. And if there's no support, then I would say look for it, advocate for yourself, find support. Because we're not meant to be islands unto ourselves. We are meant to be supported by others. And there's no better teaching for that than when you're ill and you have no choice but to let other people care for you. I can be a pretty independent person, and it was such a lesson for me in patience and appreciation and gratitude for all the people that supported me through that experience. So I think what we appreciate appreciates. We can either get angry at our bodies or angry at things not going the way we would like them to, or we can be grateful for what is happening. So no matter what I'm going through with my body, when I'm able to, I always remember to thank my doctors and nurses. I always remember to thank the people around me who support me. I'm ever so grateful to Tillman. It's just the journey that we're all going to take. You know, the Buddha talked about seeing illness, seeing death, realizing there was suffering in the world, and that being his awakening. And then he began to study, why do we suffer? And the number one thing he came up with was attachment and aversion. I really, really, really want this experience. I really, really don't want that experience. And so we suffer. Somebody once said enlightenment is the acceptance of what is. So if we can accept what's going on at the time and be grateful, even if it's after the fact, for the experience, the good parts of the experience that we had, we have more energy to move forward. If we're fighting the experience, if we're saying this shouldn't be happening to me, we're losing energy we need for our development. So this week, contemplate that. What are you able to be grateful for in terms of what your body can do, what your body's teaching you, and the supports that are around you? And if you don't have supports, please find a way to get them for yourself. Everybody deserves them. And sometimes our patterns block us being supported. So that's worth working on. I can help you with that if that's an issue for you. Practice patience. Know that your body is doing exactly what it needs to do to guide you on your spiritual journey. It's just a vehicle your soul drives through life. It's not the only one you'll ever have, but it's the one you're in right now. So work with it. I leave you with that thought for this week, and please stay tuned for my next series. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye for now.